studio and this behind the scenes look at the Mandalorian video. I hope you guys enjoy it. I've been working on this video now for about, oh wow, like 4 months or something, but it's been completely on and off like most projects because of the amount of work I've been doing. I started working on it probably like 2 weeks before the Mandalorian show came out, and then for the last two or 3 weeks I've been kind of just, you know, pounding away at it to get as much done as possible while I have some free time. So right here I'm not actually animating, I'm just setting up a camera angle, just basically doing a rehearsal of what the character is going to be moving like, making sure the chair is moving properly for his rotation, and making sure the framing for that shot is correct. And here I've jumped to a different scene. I find it's often good to not just stay homed in on one thing for an insane amount of time. It's good to have a nice amount of variety in your work so you don't burn yourself out. Most of the time a shot starts out like this, just in this rough 5-second sketch storyboard chart that kind of gives me a nice reference as I'm animating, as I'm shooting, as I'm editing, just making sure that I'm hitting all the beats, making sure I'm getting all the shots.
First is the worst, second is the best, and the third is the one with the treasure chest. Until next time, folks. Now, I know this looks bad, but this is not the end for me. I shall return.
It's going good, very good. I'm very happy with it. And I have a majority of the effects done. Right now I'm just kind of trying to finish up the shootout scene, the standoff. Well, the most challenging thing for this video is just the integration of CG. Because my last LEGO video, I was kind of seeing what was possible and how far I could push the images in the workflow I'm doing. Computer generated figures and ships and everything, purely just to test the boundaries of it. And now that I kind of know the capabilities of the programs and the capabilities of the image that comes out, I'm kind of using it more how a studio would use CGI in like a motion picture, and only use that extension for scenes that I couldn't do practically, like showing a huge terrain of desert with a ship in the background that I didn't own or have the pieces for. It's really fun to try to find the right sound for a scene. You'll hear in these clips that the sounds don't really match reality. With any soundtrack, you're looking for a heightened reality. You're looking for something that may not be right, but it feels right. You're going for a feeling, and when you're going for that, sometimes the best sound isn't the correct sound. Now, set building is one of those things that I've never been very comfortable with. I always have trouble really finding what I'm looking for. Set design and construction is such a huge part of what makes a movie a movie. Yet I am challenged by the creative side of that process, of actually finding a look, building a look, and knowing how to execute it in the way that I envision in my head. And so right now, we're going to be working on these shots here. The Mandalorian walks up, and then Boba Fett turns. And actually just, right now I'm considering adding lines there. So I go from storyboards then to actually just making it a reality, and that just kind of comes into determining what's going to be what. I thought that the shots that I was going to be doing just now are going to be CG. That's why there's blue in the background. The A is for animation. And rather than a still where you just need a single image to make the shot possible. I thought these backgrounds were going to be CG, but it turns out that they're actually going to be real. It's going to just save me a ton of time. So then I start building the set, and then usually as I'm completing the set, I just set up a camera. Or sometimes even from the start, I just set up a camera just to see exactly what the shot, what the camera's going to capture. That way I'm not spending my time building a bunch of extra stuff that the camera's not going to see. I'm going to start out just building freehand, just to kind of see what kind of shapes I can get, just because everything's going to be out of focus, so I know kind of, you know, what kind of shapes I need to kind of make, judging by the shots on the computer. So this video is different than my other projects just because it deals with CGI and the real elements of animation, pushing the simplicity to its limit, like seeing what I can get out of the least amount of movement. And it's kind of been a fun challenge and a good exercise for me because I've wanted to focus more on the stories than just making the animation fancy. At the forefront was just trying to think of a good story and then figuring out ways to tell that story in the most simple way possible. That, I feel like, ends up ultimately helping the video overall. Pushing the envelope for CGI stuff and ship animation and all this kind of other stuff. So I feel like that's what makes these projects fun to me, seeing what else I can learn. Every time I make a video, I kind of go in with a goal, not really knowing how to achieve it. And same with this video, how to apply what I knew with new things that I'm learning.
Oh, hey, are you guys ever gonna...
Right now I'm kind of laying out a shot list of kind of what to do for this sequence. Since it's a video where I laid down all the music and sound first, I just kind of put these
You guys ever gonna...
title cards to kind of tell me when it's going to cut to what. Just so when I do the animation, I can see like where the cuts should be, and it also saves me a lot of time because if I were to just listen to this without any indication.
Oh, hey, are you guys ever gonna...
It's just like, it's just a black screen, and I don't know what's happening or when it's going to cut. So what I've done in the past is that, since it's a back and forth shootout, would just kind of shoot random footage of one of them shooting, and then go to the other guy and then shoot random footage of one of them shooting, and then I just kind of put it together. But then a lot of footage would be wasted, or it would kind of be a waste of time. And since this process is about doing it as efficiently as possible, I'm kind of laying in when it's going to cut to what. And that also helps me keep the shots more interesting with interesting angles and that kind of thing. So that's kind of why I lay it out like this. Then I export it onto a disk, onto a thumb drive, and then bring it over to my computer here. Then I can basically lay in the sound and footage here to kind of to work with it. It's not in here right now because I have to grab it from the computer. But that's kind of how I start out a sequence like this, an action sequence, unless it is one that I'm purely doing just freehand, which would be like the Darth Vader fight sequence in A Tale of Two Darths and stuff like that I've done freehand in the past, but I've just found that if you storyboard it or shot list it out, it kind of makes it a lot simpler. And a reason to kind of do a shot list rather than a storyboard sometimes is that it's kind of hard to get the pacing of an action scene. It goes really fast. So, you know, just drawing these pictures, you're kind of unsure how it's going to cut together. So by doing this shot list, actually cut with the picture, you kind of get a good idea of exactly what you're going to be getting, and knowing that it's going to be working with the rhythms that you want, especially if you're editing to music, which is what I always prefer to do, is you lay down all the sound and the music, and then you can animate to that, which makes the whole thing feel like a more, a piece that is more together and one. So you can see I have these blocking the light and affecting the shadow very specifically, allowing me to kind of, you know, paint with the shadow. Same with this is very specific purpose. If you look right here, it gives you this shadow right here, which I'm kind of using as like a rooftop, so the sun is coming over the roof, and you'll see that in the shot. And as you can see, every single light has its own unique purpose, where like this one is a slight fill light, which makes it so it actually affects the light on this side of his head, and this one is our sunlight, and then this is just our backlight to add some more dimension to the scene. So you can do a lot of interesting things with just a couple lamps, so you know, don't be afraid to get creative with it, and you don't necessarily need a bunch of little brick lights to actually make your lighting interesting, and it's just about being innovative with what you have accessible to you. So. Something I'm thinking right now is this. It's not that far away, so I could do a forced perspective thing. I've actually done it before in A Date for Kylo Ren, where the hallway wasn't that long, but I did a forced perspective because so much is out of focus. You kind of get that effect anyway. So what I can do is make a smaller door. It'll kind of make it seem like it's further away when you look at it through the camera lens. That's a big thing about movie making in general, is it's not necessarily about what's right, it's just about what looks right. Just incorporate one of these. I'm already feeling good about this. Tinfoil is a very helpful tool, although it's extremely annoying at times just because it's so, you know, you barely tap it and it ruins an entire shot, but it gives me this cone of light that I can use. It's hard to see with the camera. You'll see it in the video, especially in the cantina scene. And since I'm limited in cash and you know, all those kinds of things, I have to compensate with finding creative ways to use the lights that I have. Okay. So yeah, that'll about do it for this set. It's hard to fully know if it's all gonna work right. I'm probably gonna have to adjust a few things. Like, I'm even concerned that building in the background might be too short, but you kind of don't know until you put the camera down and see it, and then like small adjustments will be made. But this is the basics of what it's gonna look like. So yeah, I guess that's it for this section of the video, and I hope this gave you some insight to my process. The video is actually done now, and it's released, but I wanted to kind of show you a little bit of the visual effects side of things, and how some shots were accomplished from the most basic to the most complicated. So this shot is relatively simple in terms of effects, thank God. So you can see the effects on this shot are relatively minimal. It comes mostly to color adjusting and correcting. And there are different elements like adding little holes on this pillar here, because the bricks used in that pillar in the computer generated version of the town I don't actually own, so I kind of had to, more for myself, just to make sure there's some continuity within the shots. I just wanted to add that element back in. So yeah, I don't know. It was kind of fun to emulate what I was able to generate in the computer, because it allowed me to, the computer really freed me up to experiment more with lighting and these kinds of things, and I had a very specific look in my mind of what a morning should look like, what an epic morning would look like. So I really went as far as I could with that in the computer, and then being able to then recreate that in reality was actually pretty fun, because I had to be inventive about certain things. So this is an element from a more difficult shot that actually went through many different passes. It's just complicated because it was a terrain and the ship and the Boba Fett in a pose that wasn't easy to do, and then this guy walking up a ramp, which is very difficult to do. So what I actually did was just shoot him as an image, and then made a walk cycle in the computer, a 2D walk cycle. So, you know, it looks like he's walking, but it's actually just the image being manipulated to make it look like he is walking. You basically have to animate it the same exact way you animate it in real life. You're just working with numbers rather than a physical object. So the only nice thing about it is that you can't knock over the figure. It doesn't take you, you know, hours to get back to where you were. And another interesting thing about this shot was I originally had Slave 1 as a CG element. It was good, but it wasn't quite good enough. It wasn't exactly there. So I had to blend the real ship into the shot. I lined them up using Dragon Frame, just, you know, having one of the images half opacity, and then just making sure the framing was just about right, and then shining a light through the windshield, you know, the proper way. And then I had to blend the two together. So there's a point where both of the elements converge, like so it still looks like it's attached to the ground, even though it's not. And then Boba was just shot on a blue screen, because he's green. So what's important to remember is that film is a 2D medium, so you should treat it as such. You shouldn't be limitless. And eventually your image, even if you're generating something in a 3D environment, eventually it is just going to be 2D. So once I have my shots set, then you can start adding in just 2D elements that really enhance everything. So the lens flares and the atmospheric effects, just to kind of further sell the shot, because you don't want it to look like a computer spit it out. And even if someone with a keen eye can discern that, you don't want it to be overtly offensive that it is generated in the computer. It's about trying to tell a story. It's not about trying to distract people. So now I'm just going to go into exactly what it kind of takes to generate a 3D shot and the way that I'm doing it for this video. I'm not going to get into every single aspect of what it takes to make a shot right now, because it takes hours upon hours, and I don't want this video to be about that. It's more just about, you know, showing an overview of what it takes. Just gotta create a scene as I do with any 3D element, in Element 3D, just with a solid. It all starts out so simple. Then you have your little 3D environment here. And then I have some already preset made things, like the entire town is here in this virtual setup. I'm not sure how it looks in this shot back here, but I'm sure it looks better than it actually does. Like, this wouldn't pass off as real by any means on its own. And once you plop it in the scene, then and you can see this all is happening relatively fast. If you really know what you're doing and have worked with this for a long time, you can kind of find some clever workarounds to make things look a little better and more real. Just gotta kind of work with whatever it's giving you. You know, like the thing's very far away right now. I could up the scale of it, but I'll just move the camera in closer. And these sets are all built virtually. This was inspired by a mock already made by someone else, and I was able to take it and make it into a full-on town and make it, you know, just as simple as possible. Kind of, you know, I just basically stripped away the customized features of it because it just needed to be a very basic town. This is what it is, and this is what you would get essentially. And it's moving relatively fast right now. But as you add the different things to make it pretty, the rendering settings, like the ambient occlusion, which gives it some more shading, and then you have to actually properly light it, and all this kind of stuff. But this is how it starts out in a simple form, and then yeah, your camera can have depth of field and all this kind of stuff that After Effects provides. It is a simple way of doing it, but at the same time, it does take hours upon hours to get this stuff done. And certain shots, specifically like Boba standing there, the wide shots, or like the afternoon shot, or all these kind of big wide angles where there's a lot of detail, a lot of stuff happening. Those kinds of shots take anywhere from half a day to an entire day just to finish those. Thank you for stopping by my studio and checking things out. I hope you enjoyed the film and the standoff film that came along with it, as well as this behind the scenes content. I want to start doing more things like this accompanied with the videos. I want to start posting content more frequently, and that may be weekly or bi-weekly, and it really just depends on how things are evolving and the world is evolving. So look forward to that. I already have new videos in the works. I'm actually working on a collab project with some other creators, and I'm also working on some other shorts that will be going up on my channel as well as other places. So stay tuned. It's an exciting time. Also, you can check out my Instagram. There's a lot of new content on there, including mocks, dioramas, and stills from upcoming videos and all that kind of stuff. So be sure to do that. You can check out my Patreon, feel free to support, and there's going to be exclusive behind the scenes stuff up on there. More behind the scenes stuff like this, and more in-depth breakdowns of kind of my process from visual effects to writing. And I'm excited for the future of this channel. I'm excited to ramp things up. Get excited for the content coming your way, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.